Guys, it is week 16, the semifinals of the fantasy playoffs, and these are our top 24 wide receivers. And boys, before we get into it, check out our absolutely free group chat on Chalkboard. First link in the description. In this video, we go over top 24 wide receivers. We have our top 48 ranked on there, 36 RBs, 20 tight ends, 20 QBs. We got waiver wire targets, so much extra stuff to help you guys win your matchup, maybe even win the fantasy championship. Go check it out for free. First link in the description. First wide receiver of the week is Justin Jefferson. He has been absolutely balling out, and the Giants secondary is super injured. Probably won't be getting McKinney back. Probably won't be getting Adoree Jackson back. They've been kind of struggling recently. It's the perfect game, perfect matchup for Justin Jefferson to go off. And at our wide receiver 2, we got Davante Adams. He is under 11 points in 2 straight weeks. Has been disappointing, but we expect to bounce back. Going against the Steelers, their secondary has been quite bad this season. Davante Adams has been balling basically all year. Wide receiver 3, we got Tyreek Hill. He has been insane this year. The connection with Tua has been awesome. It is a tough matchup on paper against the Packers, but still expect a big game. And at wide receiver 4, very similar to Davante Adams, we got Stephon Diggs. 2 straight weeks under 11 points has been disappointing. Does go against the Bears. The Bears are quite good against wide receivers, but it basically is just because they're so bad against RBs. This game, Bills should blow him out. Diggs should get his receptions. Gabe Davis might get a deep touchdown, but no matter what, Diggs is going to get his targets. Still love him in fantasy. Next up, Jamar Chase. It is a tough matchup, really tough matchup actually against the Patriots. They have been elite against wide receivers, and it's in New England. But Jamar Chase is an elite receiver. Joe Burrow and his connection is amazing. Still expect points, just maybe not the sky-high upside. And next up, at wide receiver 6, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last week, did pretty good against a horrible matchup for him in the Jets. Sauce Gardner was guarding him, but it almost didn't matter. Jameson Williams coming back really doesn't seem to be affecting too much. Amon-Ra is still this clear wide receiver 1 in Detroit. Next up, CD Lamb, clear wide receiver 1 in what should be a super hyped up game against division rival Eagles. Without Jalen Hurts, that kind of affects the game, but still, Cowboys obviously going to be wanting to win this game. Prime time, or not prime time, but basically prime time Christmas Eve against their arch rival. Expect a big game from CD. Next up, we got AJ Brown. Again, this really does depend on kind of if Jalen Hurts plays. Jalen Hurts is kind of up in the air right now. It's looking like there's a good chance he won't play, but there is a bit of optimism. AJ Brown this year with Jalen Hurts has been amazing. I think he set his own receiving record 3 times this year at over 175 receiving yards last week. Again, if Gardner Minshew plays, it for sure is a downgrade, but it might lead to more throwing. It should be down to the Cowboys, still throwing a lot. AJ Brown is still this clear wide receiver 1 for the Eagles. And next up, DeAndre Hopkins. I believe it's Christmas Day, primetime, Sunday night football. They're playing the Buccaneers. Not an amazing matchup, but also not a horrible matchup, and obviously without Kyler, which does suck. But Colt McCoy still is feeding D-Hop, still is definitely a wide receiver 1. Next up, at wide receiver 10, we have DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf gets even better with the absence of Tyler Lockett. Also, they're versing the Chiefs. The Chiefs are quite bad against wide receivers, and the Chiefs should be up in this game. If Seattle's down, they're going to be throwing it a ton. Who's this clear wide receiver 1 for them? It's clearly DK Metcalf. Next up, we got Chris Godwin in that same game. Primetime Christmas Day against DeAndre Hopkins. Pretty good matchup. He's been getting forced out recently. Yeah, Chris Godwin has definitely been the wide receiver 1, at least for fantasy for the Buccaneers. He has been awesome. Yeah, he's a low-end wide receiver 1 for us this week. And our last wide receiver 1 of the video, we have Keenan Allen. He has a quite tough matchup against Indianapolis Colts, so we're easily top 3 against wide receivers. They might even be number 1 still. Haven't really checked on it, but they got Gilmore. They got some good cornerbacks, but Keenan Allen been getting so many targets recently. This Chargers offense still should be able to score. Hopefully Keenan can maybe get in the end zone. He still will get fed the ball, though. First elite wide receiver 2, we got T. Higgins. Same story as Jamar Chase. Super tough matchup in New England, who has been elite against wide receivers. Again, still has a pretty safe floor, just like Chase, don't love the upside. At wide receiver 14, we have Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman plays Keenan Allen and the Chargers, and without Jonathan Taylor, they might be even more pass heavy. He's this clear wide receiver 1 in a pretty good matchup. Next up, Garrett Wilson on Thursday Night Football against the Jaguars. It is a great matchup. Hopefully Mike White's good to go. If Mike White's in, raises him even higher. If it's Zach Wilson, probably a bit lower. It's kind of just the median for him right here. Again, hopefully Mike White can go because then he's even better. At wide receiver 16, we have Jalen Waddle. In a bit of a tough matchup against the Packers, he was down for a little bit, not playing amazing. Last week had that deep touchdown, saved this week, was pretty good. Again, a bit of a tough matchup, but still has to be started in almost every league. And next up, we got Juju. He has been absolutely balling out lately. The clear wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs, not target number 1. That is obviously Travis Kelce. But it looks like a tough matchup on paper, but still love the upside for Juju. And next up, our first player in this next year is Mike Evans. He started off the year super hot, has fallen off recently. Him and Tom Brady just have not been on the same page. Last week, didn't get in the end zone, got some yards finally though. It's a pretty good matchup against the Cardinals, kind of a mid matchup, not amazing, not terrible. He just needs to start connecting with Tom again. Another player who has really found his footing recently, we got Jerry Jeudy. I believe he had around 14 or 15 points last week. Obviously the week before had 3 touchdowns. Another game on Christmas. Hopefully Russell's back. That increases upside even more. But even without Russell, he's still pretty solid. Next up, we have Amari Cooper. Really don't know how to rank him. Hopefully Deshaun can get better. But Deshaun, he's just kind of hurting this offense. Nick Chubb's taking a dip. Amari's taking a bit of a dip. And Njoku's kind of saying the same. DPJ's maybe going up a little bit. There's really a lot of mouths to feed. Amari Cooper's still solid. Still a good start, but he's a bit risky. Next up, I believe it's the first time he's on the list. We got Zay Jones. He has been awesome. The last 4 weeks, averaging just under 22 fantasy points per game. I believe it's around 10 or 10 plus targets averaging over the last 4 games. He has been amazing, looking like the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars. I mean, him and Kirk is super close, but he's been getting more fantasy production. Love the upside this week. And next up, first player in this next year is Christian Watson. Finally didn't score a touchdown, only got 8 fantasy points, but there was some penalties on him. Also could have scored at the end of the game, but he obviously ran the wrong route. Could have maybe scored. Would have been 5 straight weeks of touchdowns. He still has that super high upside because of his touchdowns, but if he doesn't score touchdowns, he does have a decently low floor, not super low, but isn't going to do amazing. Doesn't get enough targets to be amazing without touchdowns. His touchdowns, though, do give him high upside. Next up, DJ Moore. He has been super inconsistent, but it's not really his fault. Quarterback play has been all over the map, but last week had a touchdown, had around 18 fantasy points, and it's an awesome matchup against the Lions, who have really stepped it up against the run, but they're still horrible against receivers. I want to say they're 31st, second worst. So yeah, tons of upside, and hopefully what should be good quarterback play for DJ Moore. And our last wide receiver of the video, our wide receiver 24, we have Deontay Johnson. He's been getting targets. Let me read these out. 10 last week, 8 the week before, 11 before that, 8 before that. Hasn't scored a ton of fantasy points before last week. Finally got 20 points. A pretty good game. Also has a pretty good matchup against the Raiders. If you need a start, you could look at Deontay. And guys, thank you so much again for watching the video. Again, check out our free chalkboard. It's like a free group chat with all of our extra rankings on there. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next time.